Hey everybody, we're here today with the 86 Corvette. I'm going to do a coolant flush on this thing for the radiator and the engine block. I haven't done it since I've gotten it, and I really should have, and it's been eating on me a little bit. This coolant is black colored from the rust inside of the engine, just from sitting up for so long. This car only has 43,000 miles in it, and this coolant was sitting in that engine and the radiator for quite a few years, and it's just probably, you know, the surface rust from the inside of the block has really colored that coolant dark, and I'm not sure if there's any antifreeze in it. Of course, we don't get to freezing temperatures here in South Texas. It's January the 17th today, and it is probably 80 to 85 degrees out here. It is hot. I'm in a t-shirt and shorts, you know, so it's a hot one. I wish I was in some shade, but I pulled it over to grass here, you know, so that when I drain this water, it'll soak in instead of staining my driveway. And I suggest you guys put a catch can underneath there to catch this stuff. But I'm out in the country, and you know, I'm gonna just do it. I'm just gonna drain it into the grass here, so you know, don't tell anybody. But that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna drain it and put the hose in there and flush it out real good. That way the water can clean out the inside and not get all over my driveway and stain it with rust, because I'm pretty sure there is no antifreeze in this thing. It's just water, so it shouldn't be, you know, a bad chemical spill or anything like that. If it was really green, you know, and smelled like antifreeze, which it doesn't, I would definitely drain it, you know, into a bucket, but I'm pretty sure this is just water and rust I'm going to be draining out. So let's get these radiator hoses off here. I'm going to set up the tripod so you guys can follow along. It's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to disconnect the radiator hoses, let all the fluid out, and then stick the garden hose in it and start spraying water into it and filling it with water until clean water runs out. We'll do that with the engine block and with the radiator. So let's do it. Alright, let's see. There's a lot going on in this Corvette. It's not as roomy as some of your trucks and stuff, but we have a lower radiator hose down here, and then it snakes around to the water pump, which I can't really get to, so I'm just going to disconnect that one there. And then my upper radiator hose is on the other side, and I've already loosened all of these clamps, so let's see if I can get these hoses off. I'm going to set the camera down, and I'm not sure about the angle of the tripod, but we'll do the best we can so that you guys can see. Oh yeah, that water's nice and black. I can get this somewhere where it'll drain. That water is really black, and it does not smell like antifreeze whatsoever. I'm pretty sure that's straight water there. I don't want to spill this all over my electric fan or my alternator if I can help it. So I think I'm going to leave this upper hose on and just twist it around this way here. That should work for me. Perfect. Now on this side, I don't think you're going to be able to see what I'm doing as well here. Maybe I can hold the camera while I disconnect this hose. I'm going to have to get my channel locks in there on that one. Let's see. Alright, I've gotten that lower radiator hose off down there and all the black water out of it. Got my top one loose over there, so I think I'm going to start by putting the water hose into this upper engine spigot here, and I'm going to flush it until it comes out of the bottom one right there clear. So let's see how that goes. I've got my water hose into my input there, and hopefully my thermostat is open, because I'm not even sure if it has a thermostat in it or if it's working, but it appears to be flowing out pretty good. I don't know if you can see down there, but it's starting to flow out clear. The water doesn't look too bad anymore. It's been flushing now for a minute or two, and yeah, it looks a lot better than when I first started. We're gonna let that go for a few more minutes, and then stick it in the radiator and flush the radiator out as well. Alright, we've moved on to the radiator. Not sure if you guys can see. This camera will focus. But that water started coming out super black, which was what I expected. So now I'm just letting it run. It looks like the water's running through it fast enough to get to the top here, because I can still see, I don't think you can see, but I can see some water moving around in there. So hopefully it's washing the top and the bottom part of the radiator out. I'll go ahead and put the hose in the top of the radiator too before I quit. But yeah, it doesn't take long at all. You know, as soon as you start flushing it, that black water starts, and about 10 to 20 seconds later, all the black water's gone. Maybe some are worse than others. Luckily, mine wasn't too bad here. That water looks pretty nice now coming out. It makes me happy. That way I'll know what's in it. I'm going to put some half and half antifreeze clean water back in, and it'll make me feel much better. I just bought this car a few months ago, so this is definitely one of the things you want to do when you acquire a new car. You know, change the spark plugs, wire, change your oil, air filter, flush the radiator. So this was on the last of my to-do list right here, with the flush the radiator. I've done everything else tune-up wise, and I've been this has really been bothering me because I hadn't done it yet, so give me some peace of mind going forward. We'll let that run for another minute or so, then I'm going to take it out and put the hose here in the top of the radiator, so I make sure I get all of the garbage out of that radiator. Well, that's been running for a little while now on the top of the radiator, but before I did that, you can see that water has still got a little color to it. You know, there's really a lot of dirt and rust in those radiators because the passages are a lot smaller. So, looking pretty good though. But I put the garden hose back in the engine, in the intake side, and I went ahead and started the engine. And I couldn't film that part because, you know, it's not a perfect system, and some water was getting on my fan, and it just blew water like everywhere. You could see water all over everything. I don't think it'll hurt anything. This is not an OptiSpark car. This is the earlier model, so it's a little less water sensitive, luckily. I think the alternator and the electric fan can take a tiny bit of water spray. And it was just a little bit of water getting on there, but it made a big spraying mess, so I couldn't turn the phone on near it to show you. But I wanted to crank the engine and let that water run through there just to make sure that the water pump spun a little bit and got cleaned out, and you know, maybe even to let the engine get up to temperature just a tiny bit so that the thermostat would open. But I don't think I let it get up to temperature so the thermostat's open, but regardless, it was passing through the motor. So either I don't have a thermostat, or it was opened already. And a lot of times people just take those old thermostats out. That was an old trick, an old mechanic's trick back from when I was growing up. If you live in a you know, place like this in South Texas where it's always hot, it never gets real cold. You know, we don't have as much trouble warming our engines up to get to operating temperature. So you could just take the thermostat out, and it's not really a big deal. I didn't remove it, and I don't suggest removing them, but that's probably what is going on here. You know, on a 40-year-old car, chances are the thermostat started to fail one day and somebody might have just taken it out, because that water was really flowing through the engine. When I flushed the engine out, and it was cold, it hasn't ran all day, It's been sitting here in the driveway, and it's about, I'd say about 80 some degrees today. So that water's starting to look pretty clear. I'm pretty happy with that. I think I'm going to shut the hose off now, hook everything back up, and fill the system up. And I'll make sure that I burp the air out of the system over there. I'll undo the top radiator hose for a minute while I'm filling that up, just to make sure I have it totally topped off. So we'll be back in just a minute. Alright, I've got the lower radiator hose hooked back up. I've got the upper radiator hose just placed on with no clamps. I'm going to start filling the system with some fresh pressed on antifreeze. This is rated for all vehicles. I had this laying around, so I'm hoping it'll be good for this vehicle, because it is a vehicle which falls into the category. So let's see here if I can get this in without making a mess. Look at that pretty green color. That's what I like. That's antifreeze there, no question about it. Better than black, and I like black, but not for coolant color. This system probably takes about 2 gallons. I'm guesstimating. In my experience, usually it takes one of these and then another one full of water, more or less. This is ready to use. It says do not add water, but I only have one of these, so I'm going to add a little water, and then I'll run it for a little while, and I'll change it again, you know, just to make sure my system's flushed real good. But this will be better than pure water for now, for sure. Looks like we're getting to the top of the radiator already, so I should probably turn the engine on so that I can start circulating some into the block. And that was almost the whole gallon that it took there. I think that's just to fill up the radiator. It probably won't push fluid into the engine until I turn on the engine and have the water pump there to help me. So let me go ahead and do that. Before I turn the engine on, I am going to prime the block. I'm going to fill it up a little bit with the hose so that my water pump has something in it to get started there, so I don't have such a big air bubble in it. I've got my hose on here. Go until it really blows back on me. It's already pushing some out of the radiator though, so I may stop there. I don't want to lose my good antifreeze. Don't forget to flush out your overflow jug. My overflow jug was just as dirty as the rest of it. It came out super black at first. Now it's starting to clear up. So instead of taking it all the way out and dumping it, I just stuck my hose in there and gave her a good flush. Now, once I let the engine run for a little while, and then I disconnected that top hose over there, and I poured a little more water from the hose in there until I filled that all the way up. And then I put it back on, and I turned it off and on a couple times, and I could start to see it circulate under the cap, I'm pretty sure. So this is the last thing here. I'm going to flush out my overflow, make sure I've got plenty of overflow fluid in it. Get my battery out of the water there. Very good. Batteries don't like water. And that'll be a wrap. So that's looking pretty good there out of my overflow jug. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to put it all back together here and then take it around the block for a test drive. The car did great. This car has the cooling fan wired on with a key. You know, it was like that when I got it. These things, the operating temperature is pretty hot. It's supposed to operate around 220 degrees actually before the fan comes on. But this guy here, somebody has wired the fan to come on with the key. So it runs exceptionally cool since I've gotten it. You know, it stays around 170 degrees, and if I'm in traffic or in a long line picking up the boys from school or something like that, I've seen it get up to around 190 to 195, the hottest. So unless my temperature sensor is bad, which is quite possible, it's running really cool. You know, with the old coolant, I wouldn't put anything past it. It could have a dirty coolant sensor, but it really doesn't seem like it's getting that hot to me. I have a good nose for if something's getting hot or not. You can kind of tell, you know, once you've been around cars for most of your life. And you know, it just doesn't seem like it. So I drove around a little bit, and it's still, you know, around 160, 170. I didn't drive it too long, just because I had to get back. I have some things I have to go do, actually go pick up the kids from school. So I'll take it on another drive a little later and just confirm, but it seems like everything's great. Seems like the coolant is circulating, and really didn't change anything except for my peace of mind of knowing that the coolant is clean. And it's good for your water pump to have clean coolant with a little antifreeze. That antifreeze has lubricant in it for your water pump. So you guys, if you're running straight water, just because it doesn't get cold enough to freeze in your area, you still want that antifreeze in there as a lubricant for your water pump, or you're gonna have a premature water pump failure. You know, and it seems to slow down the rust a little bit too, you know, as far as getting rust in there, and that rust is abrasive. It'll definitely eat up that impeller in your water pump. So I hope this inspires you guys to maybe flush your coolant system out. I know most old cars probably need it, you know, sooner than later. So all right, so that's a wrap. No cap. Hope you come back. It's the Pop's Place wrap. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. I hope you guys all do your own maintenance on your own cars. You save a lot of money, and you know, it promotes timely maintenance. You know, you don't have to, oh, I'm going to take it to the shop next week. You know, keep that oil changed, keep your radiator and your block flushed, keep your spark plugs and your wires good, and your engine will be a lot more efficient and last a lot of years. This car only has 43,000 miles, and it's over 40 years old. Well, getting close to 40 years old, I'm sorry. It's over 30 years old. We're about 36 years old there. So I want to make it last a long time, and it needs it. It's set up a long time. So I appreciate you guys coming and checking me out. I know I'm not as flashy as some of the other channels out there, but you know, we'll keep at it, man. We'll get better together and keep doing cool shit. So till next time, thanks for joining me at Pop's Place.